Welcome back to the Soulful Speaking podcast. I am so excited about my guest today, Giselle Jennaway. Giselle and I were brought together through Synchronicity. I'll give you a little bit more about that in a moment. She is a trained naturopath, homeopath, hypnotherapist, Psych K facilitator, apprentice of Alchemy, and student of natural success. Born into a long line of teachers, she's worked with individuals and groups since the age of 11. Welcome, 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 Giselle.
Lauri, I am so delighted to be here with you.
I am going to say a little bit more about our synchronicity from my perspective and how we met, and you can feel free to chime in.
Awesome.
I was in a program by Conscious Marketer, and the arc of my time there was coming to an end. So I decided to binge all of the bonus material that came with my membership before the cancellation. And up until that point, I had been simultaneously drawn to a bonus teaching that Giselle did and also avoiding it. And when I sat down to binge watch everything before canceling, hers floated up as I have to watch that right now. And I actually don't think I watched any of the rest of them, because as I was watching, I knew that I was meant to be in her world, and just went down the rabbit hole of, I'm going to figure out how I can contact her and send her a Facebook message or an Instagram message. I don't remember which one. And the rest, as they say, is history. And we are now creating more history together.
Yes, we are. And what's so beautiful about you presenting your side of the synchronicity is over on this side of the story. Kylie and I have known each other for years. It's through Kylie that I was introduced to the alchemy that I'm now so immersed in. And I had made a really clear intention that I would meet everyone I needed to fill my programs and one-on-ones, the people that I'm actually meant to work with, through referral. And the next thing that happened was Kylie decides that she wants me to teach alchemy. We'd had a couple of voice messages, just personal friends between us. And she was like, oh, I want you to teach this for Conscious Marketer. And she shouted me out on Facebook and then directed me to the post. It's like, I haven't told her yet, but I'm sure she'll say yes. I was like, of course I'll say yes. So that was such a beautiful opportunity to share, what I live and breathe in service of all of those gorgeous people who've been attracted to Kylie's world. So it's such a melting pot of synchronicities that bring everyone together. And my intention, if we jump to the end of my speaking journey, that's almost like final chapter. I just showed up with the full intention that, to say what needed to be said, that there were people who would hear what I had to say, and that the words that I spoke and the way that I said them would awaken whatever they needed. So I was just absolutely, completely in service and let it take over. And then you jumped into my world, both feet, and it's been such a delight to have you. So good.
Yeah, it's definitely what I experienced. Something awakened in me when hearing you speak. And now that we've teased everyone, I want to go back to the beginning. Where and how did your speaking journey begin?
So I think if we have to characterize like the movie title, it's from strenuous avoidance to that voice in service. The point that, like, when I hypnotized myself to like untangle my stuff, a point that I really went back to very often, I can't have been more than 5. It was second class. And Mrs. Skimmel, this tall, stern, grey-haired, terrifying woman who, like, all the children had nightmares over, she was the headmistress of our infant school, was trying out everyone for choir. I don't remember having a choice. I think I wanted to be in the choir. I can't quite remember. But we had to line up, and then one by one, we'd walk to the piano where she was playing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and we had to sing a bar. And based on that performance, we were sent to this side of the room where you got to be in the choir, or that side of the room where you were not good enough. It was very clear.
Mm.
So, my 10-second audition, I was trembling with fear. My voice was strangled, and I was sent to that side of the room.
Mm.
And that was kind of it.
Mm.
I'm not opening my mouth ever again.
Yeah. Oh, it pains me to hear that in some ways. And I'm so glad that you have found your way to the glimpse of the end of the story that we've already gotten. I know I am not a singing instructor. I'm a speaking instructor and a voice coach. And when I was going through my voice certification, we did have to sing. And at that point in my life, when we had to sing, my voice went haywire. Like I couldn't even hit the right pitch. I'm an actor who can carry a damn good tune. I can hit pitches. So I'm seeing you at 5 years old, knowing that you cannot tell in 10 seconds. It's
Yeah,
almost like, you're at a school for magicians and they gave you 10 seconds and you didn't do it their way. So they put you over with the non-singers, over with the mere mortals, when in reality, there's a magician inside.
yeah. What I did
Yeah.
excel at was academic stuff. So that became my safe zone. And apparently, when I was home and in my safe zone, I was very fully expressed. And my parents used to say I should be on the stage. That was their
Mm.
perspective. I don't know if it was true, but it certainly got shut down in any kind of public space. So it became private only.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any, I don't know what the education system, I know what education is like in the United States, and there's a TED Talk. Do schools kill creativity by Sir Ken Robinson? The answer is yes, they do, in case, spoiler alert if you haven't heard that TED Talk. So when you said it, I made the assumption that it was, the stuff that is wrong with the school system is that it's suppressing and it's removing creativity. And it was designed at a time when we needed to groom people to be working on factory floors and to do everything the same way. And we haven't really, here in this country, torn down our education system and replaced it with what we need
Yeah,
now. So it makes sense to me that you were vibrant and alive in your private space, and people were saying, you should be on stage. And out when they're going, no, don't do that. Don't be that. It
I think,
was not shining.
yeah. And I think, look, back in the 80s when teachers still had a lot of freedom to teach their classes the way that they wanted to, it's a synchronicity that I had Mrs. Skimmel shut me down, because I could equally have had some beautiful angel who was in the teaching faculty bring me out. So it just becomes part of the story. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was an imprinting formative moment for sure.
Hmm. I know there are more formative key moments on your journey.
Yeah.
What's the next
The next
big?
one. Okay, so all through school, strenuous avoidance of anything that would have me on a stage and speaking. So if we were doing a play, I was at the back of the room sitting on my hands, like anything I could do to get out of that vulnerable exposure. But by the time I got to university, it was heart hammering to have to speak, like extinction level danger threat. And that's why I tried to back out of it. But there'd be moments in
Mhm.
class where, like, I would just, like, there'd be someone asking a question, because because I hadn't understood the teacher's presentation. And all through school, you know, I'd finish my work. There'd be kids who didn't understand the work, and I'd just go round to their desks and just one-on-one explain to them what they didn't get. And then the light bulb would go on, and, you know, it's just something that I did. And so in those bigger classes in university, in tutorials, there'd be someone who didn't understand something, and I knew that I had the missing piece of information. And so I kind of knew it was my cue to speak, but the heart would start hammering. I'd be terrified. I was like, oh, for fuck's sakes. Like, why? Like, these people are my friends. I'm in class with them every day. And so I just choose to overcome that and share something that made a difference, and then I'd shut up again. But it really came to a head. Like, I just couldn't handle that feeling in my body. And I was studying homeopathy by this time. And there's a remedy called gelsemium. And gelsemium it's one of the 4 remedies you can use for like exam nerves or anticipation anxiety. And it has progressive paralysis. So you literally blank out in gelsemium. It starts on the mental emotional plane, and it can progress all the way to physical. You can use it for physical paralysis as well. And I thought, brilliant. I've got this biochem presentation coming up. I will take gelsemium half an hour before my presentation. Again, to a room full of people I was in class with every week. I am not frightened of these people, but my body was. And so I took the gelsemium, and I can't remember what my presentation was on, but, you know, we all had a topic. And it was my turn, so I got up to the front of the class and I delivered my opening lines, but I was like, had this profound, I can't be bothered even speaking feeling come over me. Like, I was so calm, I could have fallen asleep. And it was like mechanical to force myself to spit out the lines of my presentation. And I got through it. It was weird. Afterwards, my friends came up to me and they said, hey, what happened up there? Like, you started so well, and then, like, you sort of weren't there. And I realized, as uncomfortable as the adrenaline is, it made me super present. Like, there was a purpose to being, you know, pumped and trembling, and like, it was overkill, but without it, I couldn't even be bothered to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody out in the traditional speaking world talks a lot about calming down. That is one danger of the calming down, where it was true calmness and too much calmness, rather than knowing that speaking is a moment that really matters to you. So what can you do with that energy? How can we teach our bodies that speaking in front of a crowd is not the same thing as having a big hungry bear come walking into the room? And you said, like, you knew those people. Your mind knew I shouldn't be experiencing this terror in my body. And yet the body was doing its job and experiencing the terror because it hadn't learned yet. This is not the same thing as a bear walking into the room. And in case there's anybody else listening who has also been through that, why do I suddenly get afraid when I'm in a room full of people that I know and I trust, and they turn and look at me? And then all of a sudden that heart starts going. The energy is different. Instead of feeling like you're one of, when everyone in a circle turns and looks at us, the energy has shifted, and it feels more like we are on the spot, or we are spotlighted, and we have to learn how to have the appropriate level of sensation, energy, adrenaline, and how to have it move instead of trying to shut it down. The other way that it shuts down is that people become numb. So they're not really calm like you were. They're more petrified. like stone.
And then out of your body.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
out of your body. Yeah. What was the next leg on your journey?
Yeah. Just to finish off that one, it was a dry topic. I'd taken the time to make it interesting so that it was a good use of time for the class. And because I got
Mm-hmm.
too calm, I lost all of that quality of the message and the conveyance. So I took that message to heart, and fast forward some more years. It was a 4-year degree, but I started with no babies and finished with 3, so it took me 8. So when I got to my final year and I was doing my grand rounds presentation, my third baby was, let's see, how old would she be? She was still under a year. And my husband was fantastic at like bringing me the baby when she needed feeding and then like taking her away. But she wanted to be with her mama. And actually, I felt way more comfortable with my baby on my hip. So I did my grand rounds presentation with my baby on my hip because these were the babies of my degree as well. They kind of belonged to everyone in my
Mm.
in my studies. They'd been in classes a lot. And that real anchor allowed me to deliver. So I was learning. I just need to be connected to something real. And then I can just do it
Mm-hmm.
in service of whatever the forum is. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Of hearing you talk about that now, it makes so much sense on a number of levels. Actors, when they're on a stage, when they have to stand there and do a monologue where you have nothing in your hands, it's hard in a gazillion ways. And one of the reasons is that you can't have a prop to hold, something to ground you. And you had a baby on your hip, a baby that came from your womb, close to your womb, on your hip, and you're a sacral authority.
mhm.
How lucky that that she wanted to be by mama that day, because the part of you that like can handle anything, I have not given birth. I'm not a mom. So I have this like, if you can do that, you can do anything.
Yeah.
Was, you know, it was whoom, you were really in that and aware of that in your body, even if your mind was not putting all those pieces together as it was happening.
Yeah, that's such an astute observation because the mother in me is the eminently capable, actually can do anything. Like, throw it at me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How did it go? How was it received? What did you learn from it?
It was fine. Like, if I look back on it, that's really all I can remember. I did it well, no big deal. I think I forgot to submit the
Mm-hmm.
written part afterwards. Like, I like checked the box after I stepped off the stage. But they loved me and forgave me for forgetting due process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
where did that lead you next?
next, through a long, long chain of synchronicities, I ended up taking that ability to work one on one into the online space. I got a tap on the shoulder that I said, you'll be working online. And I really didn't know what that meant at the time. It was all, I finished university before we had online tutorials. It was all still in person. And I just thought it was weird that you would meet not in person in a Zoom room. But I'd started to investigate the online space. And at first, I just thought I'd be doing naturopathic consultations, homeopathic consultations at distance. And then I thought the most I could possibly have to offer was maybe the law of attraction in an Australian accent. Like, I had no idea what else it was that I valued that I could possibly share with the world. Um, but
Mm.
it's a story in and of itself. I ended up in a course. That course, incidentally, was how Kylie and I met back in 2015
Mm.
and made friends.
Mm-hmm.
It was absolutely a fish out of water, but I was meant to be there. And Periscope was the social media big thing of the time. And the wisdom was start doing live streams. And so then it's like talking into a dot on your phone, which was like next level weird. You had to like suspend your disbelief that it's a phone, that it's actually a group of people who you want to speak to. And so one day I decided, okay, this is the day I'm going to do my first Periscope Live. And I decided that I wasn't going to let myself go home until I'd done it. So I did all my stuff in town and I went down to a really lovely cliff that's near the little village where I live. And there's a really nice walk along the cliffs there through nature. And I thought I'll give myself that setting so that I can ground and then I will speak into the dot. Lauri, I stood there. I stood there for an
I will
hour
speak into the
to the
dot.
dot, like eyes on the dot. It took me an hour to press record.
Mm-hmm.
Like every time I was about to like jump off the cliff, I'd hesitate. Like, this is ridiculous. And so eventually, I just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, for fuck's sakes, just press, walk, speak. Whatever happens, happens. You're not going to die. And so I did.
Mm-hmm.
I really wasn't going to let myself go home until I had, faced this particular hurdle. And I started to ramble. Periscope had live viewers, but you didn't have followers. And I can't even remember. Anyway, I was speaking and the first person popped on. I have no idea where in the world they were. And I'm like, oh my God, there's a human on the other side. I don't know who it is. and then there were two viewers. And so I just like rambled. And then I was just beginning to get like into the groove of it when I inhaled a fly. I inhaled it like properly deeply so that the next thing that these two
Straight.
straight down, the next thing these two live viewers got was me on all fours retching up a fly. And I decided to like, at that point. And so I kind of like picked myself up, got my breath back, held my head high and drove home because I did it. I pressed the button and I spoke and I made myself leave it up there for the full 24 hours before I deleted it, and no one can ever find it and you will never see me, even if you trawl the internet retching on a fly. But it was such a great story. I felt like it belonged in
Yeah,
the trajectory of this speaking journey.
it does. It does. And it even, when you were saying it this time, I thought, people pay good money for ayahuasca now to have similar experiences where they're exorcising things that could be holding them back that they don't need anymore. And it feels like, in an odd way, the fly may have helped you. The fly flew in, and then you retched up the fly and possibly retched up some of the things that were holding you back or getting in your way at the same time. And
Maybe.
it's also so human and so endearing for us.
I know, right?
Probably not when you're choking on the fly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember seeing at Lilith Fair a singer in the 90s singing, and she tripped and fell backwards. So she's got the mic and she's singing and she falls down backwards. And because the mic is right there, you could hear the lung cavern when she hit the ground. And she just took a breath on her back and kept on going.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so impressed by that. And when you were sharing your story of the fly and you picking yourself up, dusting yourself off, and heading on home, it's simultaneously, oh my gosh, she's a human being. And I'm incredibly impressed that she picked herself up, and the glowing you that I see now is the one who picked herself up and walked back toward the car and headed home.
Yeah, I forgave myself. And you know, the whole point of doing lives is to create that human connection. So when you polish out all of the human, like, what's the point? People want to
Yeah.
connect to a real human. And if I think about, you know, my husband, before I knew him, loved being on the stage. They did the importance of being earnest in school. And the best story that comes out of that is when someone forgot their lines and they just like improvised.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing if I think of my dear friends from my final year of school. Same play actually. And again, it was where they stumbled and then just like picked themselves up. It was the funniest part, like the one that got the most applause from the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's definitely why I love live theater. I am still an actor. I do not really do film. And it's in part because you get to do it every night and it's different every single night. And you do come away with stories. And often the stories that are the most interesting are the ones where something went quote unquote wrong.
mhm.
Somebody forgot their lines, a piece of the set broke, somebody from the audience started talking back. And the same thing is speaking and theater are so similar. Live talks, whether it's live on Periscope or live in the room with people, what makes it special is the connection with the people that are there on that day.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Hmm.
Yeah.
We could probably have the chariots of, you know, where you have the inspirational song and you get the little moments on the journey. Like, it's all coming together now. She learned she wasn't going to die. She learned that when she actually opened her mouth to say what felt like it wanted to be said, that it made a difference to at least one person in the room. She made that stronger than the visceral historical fear that was in her body. And she got past humiliation. So I was like, okay, now, now we're all clear.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the next thing that happened as the music starts to play would be 2018 was where all of those pieces came together. So Kylie messages me that Avery is coming to Australia to teach a weekend workshop in Alchemy. I've been gloriously minding my own business, doing a morning practice that was really starting to move the needle for me, and I would have happily stayed there quite a bit longer. But
Mm-hmm.
I'd ripened it to the point where it was shareable. Like if I shared what I was doing with someone, it was likely to make a difference to their experience as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was properly broke. You know, I know a lot of people say, you know, I don't have any money. But if I say I don't have any money, it means I've already been through the couch cushions for spare change to buy milk, and there's nothing else left. So
Mm-hmm.
it's properly broke. And I really wanted, I knew I had to be in the room with Avery. So I was like, okay, what have I got? I was learning hypnosis from Marissa Peer. I had this morning practice, and it just came to me like in an inspired flash to create a program called the Lioness Way of Bliss, to build the plane on the way down. And I just put up a Facebook post that said, I'm doing a thing. Who wants to join me? And I made it like
Mm-hmm.
150 bucks for 6 weeks. And I had 22 women
Mm-hmm.
join me for that. And I built the program around them, what they wanted in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
It was a mixture of alchemy and hypnosis. And by the end of it, one of the participants said it was like drinking freedom through a fire hose. But I literally made it up like a day ahead. But I was responding to the people who
Mm-hmm.
had said, like, they'd responded to me, I was responding to them. And in service of what they wanted, I found myself doing hour-long lives each week, making a recorded audio workshop, and making these really powerful hypno audios for them to listen to as they went to sleep each night. And I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was real.
Yeah.
Yes, I was talking into the dot, but I knew
Yeah.
who I was talking to, and it was real. It was
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
good.
What a change in the talking to the green dot. That when you were connected to who you're talking to and why you're sharing what you're sharing, now all of a sudden the green dot is a gateway to connection, a gateway to service, a gateway to impact, a gateway to changing the world instead of the tiniest green spotlight ever created.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
who knows who on the other
I'm
side. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm so glad you kept going and making friends with the green dot.
Well, some part of me knew that I had a Lauri in my future to connect with, so there's no backing out now.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so the next piece would be as soon as I trained with Marissa Peer, I knew that I was going to be training for her, which brought me back to the training I used to do with my mother when I was a teenager, just facilitating a room full of people, understanding new concepts really well. And so that happened a year
Mm-hmm.
later. And, to a huge room full of people, I was asked to demonstrate putting someone into hypnosis long distance via Zoom, because at that point, 97% of my work was online. And
Mm-hmm.
so I sat there in the chair and I had the eyes of probably over 100 people on me. And there was a little bit of this, but it didn't matter because I knew why I was there and what I was speaking in service of. And I had the entire room absolutely mesmerized by what I was sharing with them. And I know that because they
Mm-hmm.
told me.
The tiny little bit of this, in my experience, you want a tiny little bit of that
It made me
because
present.
if it's
Yeah.
yeah, it makes you present. It's when it's a bigger moment, if an athlete is going to run a race and they don't have a little bit of that before they start running, it's not going to go well. They might not even be able to finish. They might get injured. Who knows? So a little bit of this gives you the extra something to hold that bigger room than if you were just delivering the same message to me one on one.
Yeah, totally.
I think that's more for people listening than that was for Giselle. Like if you're feeling a tiny little bit of this, that's one of the ways it's supposed to be. You're not broken. If you're feeling a little bump, 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 or even a lot of bump, 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 don't fight it. Do what Giselle has been talking about, where you are in service. Who are you serving? Connect to that and take your breaths and open your mouth with the bump, 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 and speak from there.
Mm, I love that. It's probably just one of the biggest shifts. And I took a YouTube course in service of getting the hang of this speaking into the green dot thing. I didn't really follow through with much of it. But the takeaway was stop making it about you and make it about the person that you're speaking to, which was naturally what my energy wanted to do anyway. And it made all the difference. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like, so what? So what? Like, there's a person on the other end who
Yeah.
can receive value in their own way from what you're sharing. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
Got,
That's,
got so many better things to do
yeah.
than stare into a dot and speak.
Yeah. For so many light workers, soul workers, service oriented people, we wouldn't be doing it if it weren't for something that we're serving. So the more we can turn the volume up on that in whatever ways we do, the easier it's going to be to stare into the green light or go stand on a red carpet.
Yeah. So the next piece would be there's about 4 years there where hypnosis was my main tool. And in a hypnosis session, you induct someone into that state where they can access their own wisdom. Go back to 3 scenes that connect the dots on the inner story of why this thing that appears as the problem is going on, so that their awareness expands and they completely get the inner story that's making the heart hammer, or whatever it is. Like, oh yeah, that all makes
Mm-hmm.
sense now. And in that inner mind place, it's actually easy to let it go because you literally understand, not in your head, but in your body. And you also know that it belongs to the past and not to now. So within the session framework, you do all of that together. And then I've carefully taken notes in the beginning of what that person really wants to experience. I've taken really clear mental notes along the way of their keywords and themes. And then it's my job to okay, chill now, hit record and speak back the new reality that is true for them. And pretty much everyone who trains with Marissa Peer agonizes over the script at first and wants to get it right. I kind of had bullet points to hold the structure, but I just A, I didn't have time. B, I couldn't be asked. Let's just do it. And so I just allowed
Mm-hmm.
my voice to say what needed to be said to that person. Hit record, end record, send it to them on WhatsApp. They listen to it for at least 3 weeks. And I just got the hang of doing that. It's like speaking, I guess what you call speaking in channel, but it's really just connecting to that person and giving the words that they need to have whispered back into their nervous system and subconscious mind, and build the pictures of the future that they're going to automatically move towards then. And because I'd already studied
Mm-hmm.
alchemy, I had the structure, the geometry of that new reality embedded in that audio. And what I got
Mm-hmm.
told again and again was your voice, oh my God, your voice. It just does things on the inside. And even when they'd listened for their 3 weeks, often they kept going, or they came back to it a year later and then messaged me and said, I'm still getting so much from that audio. It's incredible. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so my voice does things. It has a job to do. So again, life was teaching
Yeah.
me the role of my voice and allowing it to do its job.
Yeah. I've absolutely experienced that myself. I'm feeling it right now. And I remember the thought that I had when I was watching the video of you was it was awakening the part of me that already knew that what you were sharing was true for me.
Perfect. Which was the entire intention of that transmission.
Yeah. So when you have an intention, you may not always have someone come tell you that they experience the exact intention, and someone out there is. And it was not my brain having thoughts, it was more that I was having an experience in my whole self, and my brain translated what that meant when I would describe it to others as I'm describing it to you now. I'm putting words to it that describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it, you know, when you were put out of the singing line, you have a voice that sings in a different way.
Mm.
And if she hadn't moved you to that other line, you might have been an opera singer or something,
Yeah.
instead of doing the work in the world that you're doing now.
Yeah. So letting the isness of all things be is just so much easier than wishing it were different or saying it should be another way.
Yeah.
So by the time we
Yeah.
met, I guess since 2020, when the world turned upside down, I started growing a membership or evolving a membership. I haven't grown it big, but it's become more and more powerful in their evolution. Because again, I'm always responding to the people who are there and then how can I make this better? How can I make this better? And my main toolkit shifted from hypnosis, which taught me so much about the geometry of what goes on inside our minds, to Psych K, because it's just simpler, more powerful, and more effective. Unless I'm breaking ancient curses or there's something really shadowy that needs to be seen. Hypnosis is still a great tool for that, but mostly Psych K covers it more quickly without having to spend so much time on the story. And that's had me teaching weekly workshops and making audios for a purpose for the last, 5 years now? 4 or 5 years. So
Yeah.
I'm really getting the hang of this thing now. And it culminated, in the story with when you and I met. And I'm like, okay, there are more people who are meant to receive this. The best way is through referral. I choose that referral is the main way new people find me now. And then again, Kylie's been such an amazing, important figure in my story. And the next thing I got an invitation.
Yeah.
So I was like, yes, yes, I will show up for that. And even if
Yeah.
my heart goes like this a little bit, I know why I'm here. And my pure intention is to ping the antennae of anyone who is meant to hear what I say. It's not up to me. I don't care who doesn't like it, who it doesn't resonate with.
Yeah.
I'm only in service of the people I have, in the broadest terms, some kind of soul contract with, because we said we'd do this. And that's all that matters anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's in addition to she's awakening a remembering of something in me, I also had the feeling it's an energy that I've felt a couple of times, key people in my life of it's like static is moving out of the way and I can feel a magnetism with the person, everyone from someone that I met in graduate school to my husband to different people that I've worked with like you. That was definitely in there as well. And part of what I hear in what you're saying is you trusted that you knew what was needed. You trusted all of the studying that you had done and the notes that you have taken about people. And then you've got an outline and then you talk to them. You got a couple of notes written down and then you speak to them and you allow it to come out of you live that time in the way that it needs to, whether it's for one person or 100 people, or you're not really sure, is it for one or 100? And I say all the time to people, speaking is like Saturday Night Live. And there's a really tangible example of this happening with Giselle. Speaking is not like reading a book and reading every single word of the book that you've pre-programmed ahead of time. It's not like a movie where there's 2 hours worth of script that's already written. Saturday Night Live is an improv show. They improvise all week. They take some notes. I'm oversimplifying it a little bit. They've got bullet points backstage of what are the scenes that we're doing and what are the markers of what we're doing that we need to hit. And just like we were saying about the theater and the speaking, if you've watched Saturday Night Live or any other improv show, the best moments are when you can tell somebody did something slightly different from all of the rehearsals and they're cracking the professional improvisers up. And you can see them like putting their head under a plant and things like that. This is an example of what I mean when I say it's like Saturday Night Live. The Saturday Night Live actors have studied their craft and then they go out live and they do the thing with some bullet points. Giselle has a life of experience with the people and with the methods that she's sharing in the world. With that outline, she opens her mouth and lets it come out that time. And she's reaching people like me who are meant to find her using her voice.
Love that. While you're saying all of that, Laurie, I'm aware two things. Way, way, way back when I used to do teaching with my mother, which was a new way of teaching dyslexic people, adults and children, to decode the language. Sometimes I'd have naughty little boys who pretended they didn't want to be there. Like, so gorgeous. Like, what I got to do with those kids who had developed a belief that they were stupid because they couldn't read. Insanely intelligent, like the next criminal mastermind if they put their mind to it, kind of a thing. Would say they didn't want to be there. And I'm like, well, if you don't want to be here, I don't want to teach you. And they'd be like, like, no, 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 I want to be here. And I actually don't want to engage with anyone who doesn't want to be here. So it allows me to put aside the whole world of like, get the numbers, get the people, convince them to come into your world. It's like, if you don't want to be here, I don't want anything to do with you. And the beauty of the arc, from avoidance to allowing my voice to do its job, is I've gone from the visceral terror that I will be killed, which, you know, a lot of it's this lifetime. I've touched past parallel epigenetic, whatever you want to call it, imprints that say it really is dangerous to open your mouth and be seen. So I've gone from you're gonna be killed to I literally adore every single person in my world. Like, the love is palpable. So that's the real victory.
Yeah.
I get a
Yeah.
world full of
And when you
love.
tune into the radio signal of you, everyone who is meant to be drawn into your world knows you when they see you, hear you, feel you, because you're in alignment and you're broadcasting on a pure signal instead of, let me try to fit myself over into this box over here and have it come out like,
Yeah.
beautiful.
You know, in alchemy, truth is a paradox, right? Like, it should hurt your brain every time you touch truth. And so we now have these platforms where we can speak to the entire world, which is so vulnerable because all the people who will throw stones and hang you from a tree are out there as well. And the paradox is, if you really drop into your frequency, just exactly what you're here to do, only the people who are meant to hear you will notice you exist. The rest will move on within 10 seconds. Like, oh, this isn't for me.
Love that paradox. Love that paradox. If something in you is resonating with Giselle and you want to explore more in her world, you can go to her website, whitelionalchemy.earth. Lion has a silent E. She has a bingeable audio series there called The 5 Phases of Creating Something from Nothing that you can download. And she's made a special gift to my podcast listeners. If you click shop on the website, you can find a self-referenced personal workshop, Access Your Full Potential. Use the code Lauri, Lauri, at checkout to get it for free. She also occasionally posts on Instagram. You can follow her at Mama Lioness, MAMALIONESSE. Enjoy. Okay, it's time to move into the Pivo pivot.
Okay.
Say the first thing that comes from your sacral authority. What's your favorite word?
Mellifluous.
What's your favorite cuss word?
Oh, I'm old school on this one. I don't think you can go past the mouthfeel and the versatility of fuck.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Being in nature.
What turns you off?
Too long in a city.
What sound or noise do you love?
I love when I'm in bed and there's rain on the tin roof and there's nowhere that I have to be
Mm.
and nothing that I have to do, and it just melts me.
Mm. What sound or noise do you hate?
The sound I hate most is there's a particular tone in people's voices when they repeat with conviction the lies they have bought and sold themselves. It's like nails on a chalkboard
Mm.
to me.
Mm. Mm-hmm. What profession, other than your own, would be fun to try?
Musician.
Mm. What profession would you not like to do?
Um, any kind of like computer desk job all day, every day.
And Giselle, what do you hope people say about you on your 100th birthday?
Hmm. She put me in touch with my true nature.
Done. Putting me in touch with my true nature, putting our listeners in touch with their true nature. Thank you so much for taking the time to come here and for saying yes when we came into each other's worlds.
There was only ever the answer yes. Thank you, Lauri.